back to our main story. So it's back to school this morning, and get this, government spends roughly 250 billion rand on basic education alone in a single year. It sounds like a massive amount of money, but here's the question, is it enough? Let's get some perspective now, and Michael Marillier is our colleague working those numbers. Mike, it's a massive amount of money that is being bandied about here, 250 billion, not million, billion.
That's right, X.
The question is here, Mike, what's each kid getting for that amount? And is it enough?
Yeah, that's the question that we are actually going to be exploring throughout the day, Collie. And just to explain it, I've brought along my giant chalkboard. I hope you like it. I haven't been in front of one of these for about 20 years, Collie, and it's bringing back all sorts of memories. But as you say, it is back to school. So let's explore the numbers as we get started. We've got some stats from the Basic Education Department, Collie, indicating that there were roughly 12.5 million pupils in South African schools in 2017. We're going to focus on 2017 because most of the latest stats are from that year. So 12.5 million pupils, roughly 24,000 schools in South Africa at the time. What does that mean, Collie? That means that the average South African pupil is in a school of around about 525 learners. We are, of course, talking about government schools in South Africa. So roughly 525 pupils in a school. That's a relatively large school when you think about it. But we've had the chalkboard, so now let's focus on our calculator, because I want to focus on another important issue, and that's the learner to teacher ratio. So in other words, how many teachers are there for every pupil in the country? So we've got around about 12.5 million pupils, Collie. As we mentioned, the Basic Education Department tells us that there are about 399,000 teachers. This is in 2017. So what does that mean, Collie? Well, if we go back to our chalkboard, it means there are around about 31 pupils for every one teacher. So in the average class, Collie, a teacher is having to take care of about 31 pupils. And of course, it does fluctuate. It does change from school to school. But that is the average based on the Education Department's figures. And let's just focus very quickly, Collie, on how this is distributed. So what you're seeing here is the percentage of schools which have certain teacher-to-pupil ratios. As I mentioned, that bar right in the middle, Collie, that's the average. So the average is 31 to 35 pupils for every teacher. But take a look at those bars on the right, Collie, and that's where the concerns are. You'll see, for instance, more than 15% of our schools have ratios above 36, so 36 to 40 pupils in a class. Some have ratios of 41 to 45, and this number is particularly scary, Collie. Around about 200 schools in South Africa had classes above 50 pupils.
How do you manage that?
Above 50 pupils. Imagine one teacher 50 pupils. Deeply concerning, Collie, and something that the Basic Education Department will have to address.
What about the calculations that you've done, Mike, in as far as the pupils in that amount of 250 billion? What's the spending per pupil?
Let's focus very quickly on that, Collie, and I'm going to break down the budget for 2017-2018. So government committed around about 240 billion rand to basic education in the year 2017-2018. And if we do the maths once again, Collie, and we divide by the number of pupils, we'll get a sense of the average spend. But if you took that budget, Collie, and you made it into 100 Rand notes, you put the 100 Rand notes all together, you could circle the earth 8 times. That's how much 240 billion Rand actually is. But when you split it amongst all those pupils, Collie, it's a very different picture. So the average spend per year, for South African pupils in this country, 19,000 Rand. 19,000 Rand on a child's education. There are 202 days in a school year, Collie. Remember, we don't go to school every day of the year. 202 days in a school year. So that translates, if you do the maths, Collie, to roughly 95 Rand per pupil per school day. So that's what government is spending on South African basic education in a single day. So when you put it that way, it might not sound as much as 240 billion rand.
My goodness. Okay, Mike, you've certainly got my mind spinning this morning.